Ladies and gentlemen, Danny Fisher. Danny, how are you, dude?
I'm
Good to
good.
see you.
Yeah. How are you? How's life? How are things?
Good. Everything's good. Give people a little bit of background on yourself and what you're up to these days in Miami.
Yeah. So I am doing 5 years. I'm in my fourth year now, studying marketing, and I play golf here. So we've had a busy spring, um, and yeah, kind of just practicing and doing whatever needs to get done. So yeah.
What's the spring like for golf? The golf program.
Yeah. So well, we play fall and spring. Fall we got maybe 5 events. Spring we have MAC championship in May. And then we got rolling kind of just after J term. So we got back on campus January 25th. And, first practice was like right then and there. So we've been to Scottsdale. We've been to North Carolina a couple times, South Carolina. I think, played 7 events this spring. So we've got Pittsburgh this weekend. We're actually hosting it. And then we'll play Ohio State's event before Max. So it gets busy. Not a lot of time to do a bunch of other things besides golf and school, but it's kind of what you're in for, which I don't have a problem with. So yeah.
Yeah, aren't you fresh off a big tournament win?
Yeah, it was what maybe it was us, Bowling Green, and Northern Kentucky. So it was nice to win something. I really haven't had a win since, gosh, maybe senior year of high school. So it was a pretty small, 1 day event, but nonetheless, it was fun to feel the nerves of being in contention. Yeah.
How did it feel? How did it feel getting back in the overall win column?
No, it was good, and it was funny. I was playing my playing partner. I knew from amateur golf over the summer, and he and I were kind of neck and neck a lot of the day. So it was almost a match play situation, which I love match play. So yeah, it felt great. A little nervy, but and maybe we'll get into it later, but that in terms of the mental side, when I know I'm playing good, I'm almost more comfortable than when I'm just not feeling it. So granted, I was in contention, but I wasn't necessarily as nervous as maybe I would be if I wasn't in contention but wasn't playing as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think people experience both sides of the nerve of athletics in general. And this is pretty fascinating. This is good timing because the Masters just ended, and I was watching the whole tournament, and I'm
Yeah.
like now just fascinated with the whole like mental focus that it requires to play high level golf. And like just as a casual player myself, like the mental discipline for me for 5 hours and I have nothing on the line is like insane. I can't imagine the mental exhaustion of actually competing.
Yeah, and I think it's so funny because I was, prepping a little bit for this, thinking about the Masters. I'm huge on like just scrolling through Twitter constantly, and I saw some guy say, John Rahm had a stress-free day, and kind of coasted to victory. And as a player, and I think Nick Faldo called him out on Twitter. It's like you couldn't be further from the truth. Sure, it looked easy, but like so much is going into every shot where he's hitting, stock 9 irons to 25 feet. It's just so calculated. To where, yeah, he can make it look super easy, but gosh, yeah, for sure, mental grind. Yeah.
What's kind of like your approach to the mental side of the sport?
Yeah. So shout out the golf practice in Highland Park, Illinois. I've been working with them since I kind of started playing golf, maybe in 8th grade. Um, and they were big early on mindfulness meditation.
Hmm.
So I have been practicing mindfulness kind of since freshman year of high school. Um, and that's been massive for me, 10, 15, 20 minutes each morning, 10 minutes before a round of golf, just to get myself in the mode of like just being aware and not necessarily being judgmental. Because I myself, and the people close to me know that I can be quick to judge things. And on the golf course, if you're judging yourself, oh my gosh, you're so screwed. So knowing that bad shots are going to happen and good shots might happen, but just going through the process of being in the present moment. And granted, you don't have to be in the present moment for 5 hours. I think it's what you're only actually hitting golf shots for like 20 minutes of the 5 hours, which is even more mind boggling. So what are you doing for the 4 hours and 40 minutes where you're just walking around and waiting? That's probably the hardest part. But yeah, mindfulness has been huge for me. And then just knowing my dad likes to put it in a good perspective of like, listen, this golf shot when you're 45 years old, you're like not even going to remember it. So kind of just send it and say, what the heck? So it's kind of those two things that it's all about for me, like taking pressure off the situation. Um, and yeah, so that's how I've gone about it so far. I love just going into different athletes' minds. Like maybe you have a different thing, but yeah, anything I can do to just be like, okay, I am in the middle of the 12th fairway and we're 150 yards away. It's like, no, this shot's not going to define my life. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of how I look at it for sure.
What's your mindfulness routine? Like, are you using like an app or like just like guided meditation that you've already done in the past,
Yeah,
or is it just from the golf place?
good question. So I have Arthur Hoffman is my mindfulness coach. And him and I have a call once every 2 weeks. And then we've kind of just got our calendar planned. So I'll do 20-minute meditation each morning to where that is, and it might look different, during that 2-week schedule, but it's anything from a body scan where I go from the top of my head down to my toes. But yeah, it's really just sitting there, and it's probably sounds more complicated than it actually is. It is not guided. The pre-round sometimes is guided to where Arthur's actually created a pre-round meditation for me. But yeah, it's kind of just sitting there, letting all the thoughts come in, which there can be some crazy wild thoughts. I work a lot with my impatience and self-doubt. I think those are two big things for me. So knowing that that's there, but again, not judging it and being aware of it is kind of what I'm working on now. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is fairly common amongst golfers in particular to have specific coaches for their mindset, right?
Big time. Yeah. A bunch of sports psychs, and I've worked with different sports psychs in the past, but I've always come back to Arthur, which is funny. And I think the big thing for me is, and I can only speak for myself, but connecting the golf practice of meditation with just life meditation. Because I feel like if I'm cluttered in school or in a relationship, then it's just going to translate to the golf course. So Arthur and I do maybe 85% of our work just in my life, and kind of how that translates. But yeah, to answer your question, I mean, every top player in the world, and we have a sports psych here at Miami, Doc Slager, who he works with probably half our team right now. So yeah, very, very common.
Yeah, I know a lot of people, especially high level athletes, have a hard time balancing kind of like life outside of the practice facility, outside of the course, outside of the field, and then their life on the court, on the field. And I think like the mental side of sports has been fascinating for me because you said you struggle with self doubt, and I've been down that road a lot, and I deal with it every day. And it's interesting how you don't realize how much stuff in your outside life can impact football or impact golf. And I can only speak to football, but you have to balance that that sport life balance. And sports psychology is fascinating because there's like kind of two sides to it. I've always looked at it as like you can be very intense and very locked in on what it is, or you can be very like relaxed and just kind of like let it be one thing. And I want to know, like, how do you deal with like the struggles of balancing that act of like, are you very intense and thoughtful on that, or are you more trying to just block it out and be relaxed on the course specifically?
Yeah, great point. And I actually had a conversation with our coach here at Miami, and he's like, Danny, when you shot, those two good rounds and won, like, did you picture yourself holding the trophy? Like, was that like a goal from the get-go? And I was, like, no, like, that's just not my, and I think that's me outside of the golf course too. It's like, I'm just kind of here to, and this is not me being like a poor competitor, in my opinion, but the way I think I thrive under pressure is be like, okay, I'm here and I'm just going to chill and stay patient and see what happens type deal. I think when I start to get forceful and, like you said, intense, that's when I get emotional and bad things start happening.
Mm.
So if I can just be chill as much as possible, but granted, not being like, yo, Danny, chill out, or like, that's just going to do the opposite. Um,
Yeah.
that resonates with me most of like, okay, like, sure, I just made double, but like, all I'm going to do is stay very fact based in this moment. I'm not going to be like, gosh, Danny, what the heck are you doing making double? Um, so yeah, definitely the relaxed approach for sure. And I think most sports psychs would kind of agree with that. Granted, you've got John Rahm who he'll slam a club and be crazy if he wants to, but in about 20 seconds he's fine. So it's that 20-second period, or Arthur and I talk about, you can take 10 steps and then let it go. So during those 10 steps, it'll be, 4 kind of slow breaths just to calm me down, or something like that, versus an outward reaction. Like I'll shout out Brett Podobinski on our team. He talked to me one day. He's like, Danny, I just got to get all these emotions out. I'm like, dude, cool. As long as it's not affecting your next shot, then perfect. Be my guest. But yeah, that is definitely the biggest challenge of like just moving from hole to hole, shot to shot. Of like, what is my reaction going to be? And for me, it's just more of that relaxed approach. And from a distance, it could look like, not the like. I've had people say like, "Do you care enough?" And it's like, yeah, I care enough. Just the way that I am expressing it, I'd love a person to watch me not know if I'm 5 under or 5 over, basically.
Interesting. I like what you said about your sports psych said about like the 10 steps, 4 breaths thing. So is that always after a bad shot, or do you do that after good shots too? Is that always an in between shots thing?
Smart. Great question. It is not. I've only ever done that after poor shots. And you bring up a good point. Maybe it should be an every shot thing. But
No, I was just curious about the mental side of
right,
that.
yeah, for sure. For me, it's just bad shots, and then what I'll do is replay a little visualization of I'll take an extra practice swing after I hit it and see a good shot. How I get over bad shots pretty fast. But no, after a good shot, I mean, I'm vibing and feeling good, so try not to change much. Yeah.
Yeah, the mental like battle, I think in golf is so different because it is an individual sport when it really comes down to it. And
Yeah.
unlike football and unlike basketball and unlike soccer, whatever, team sports, you're not supposed to, but like you can blame the quarterback if he throws a pick when you're running a route. Like, but in golf, the only thing that matters is how you did. So this is the mental side of the game is just so it can be so dramatic on yourself if you take it that way. Like you watch Spieth play and he's like a roller coaster out there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I think part of the reason that I was drawn to golf in the first place was like, yeah, there is no one else to blame besides me. And granted, me and my brother, of course, we played whatever, like 4 sports growing up, and he still plays basketball. But I think it was cool to take ownership and know that like I effed up here, or I messed up here, and some other people might be like, oh, it was my caddy, or oh, it was the wind. But like, nope, at the end of the day, only the blame can be placed on you. So yeah, like you said, that can be a big burden. But I think if you're up for the challenge, and then once you get over that challenge, I mean, that's part of the thrill of it for me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you see when Rahm wins the Masters and those guys hit like an awesome shot. There's always that like sweet fist bump celebration.
And the outburst of emotion is nuts. Yeah.
Are you a nervous player like prior to matches?
Oh yeah, and this is funny. I really can't eat before I play. I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, I've heard, and granted, it's like 6:30 in the morning, and we're getting up early, so it's like not really breakfast time, anyways. But yeah, I mean, I'll have a granola bar and then just save all my eating for when I'm actually out on the course. And I actually, do you remember Dr. Dewar from high school?
Yeah. He was like the mindfulness guy, right?
Exactly. So I actually met him a couple times over J term. And he was just discussing the fact of internalizing versus externalizing my emotions and my nerves. And he was kind of explaining to me that you have to do something physical. Because I was mentioning that, like, hey doctor, I really am nervous, but once I get to the course and I start hitting balls, that's when the nerves, kind of go away. Like the second I start doing something physical. So I've started actually like doing like a mini workout before I play. Ever since that conversation, so that's helped. But yeah, I get nervous, but then kind of the second that I settle in, I hit like one good wedge shot because I'm always scared that, like, oh my gosh, have I lost my golf swing type thing, which is just a ridiculous thing with how much I practice. But the second I get to the course and I hit one good wedge shot, I'm like, okay, I've got it. I know how to swing a golf club. Now let's go. But before then, yeah, I can be nervous. Usually pretty quiet. But
you said you do a mini workout. What's the workout? Is it all golfing, or is it like bands and weights and?
yeah, a lot of bands. It'll be, I'll roll out for 5 minutes. We do a good mobility circuit before, just as a team, which is nice. But yeah, it'll be, even some like just like using 20 pounds to shoulder press. Like it's just like something to get the blood flowing. I'll spend 5 minutes on a treadmill. A lot of bands do pull aparts, some hangs, but yeah, nothing.
Are you listening to music or podcasts or anything like that to kind of get you in the zone or try to distract you from what's going on?
Yeah, no, I haven't. I in junior golf tried listening. It's funny, Patrick Reed, which this has turned into like a big joke in the golf world. Patrick Reed, who he's already like nobody likes him. Um, but he would, I guess, for 4 years straight before every round of golf, listen to Radioactive by Imagine Dragons on repeat.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's just psychotic, and no one knows why. I listen to, if I'm hitting balls during practice, I'll listen to the same playlist that I've listened to for maybe the last 4 years. But no, I don't really like music before rounds because I kind of like getting to the golf course. I like hearing the lawnmowers, the birds, kind of people talking, and what I'll actually be hearing when I'm playing. So that kind of settles me into my environment a little more. Maybe on the van ride over the course, I'll listen to something. But usually that's just kind of the radio. I don't have a set song or playlist.
Have you ever not been nervous for a match and it kind of freaked you out? Because I've been in that situation where I haven't been nervous for a game, and I was like, "Oh, this is an issue." Because usually I'm a pretty like anxious, nervous, a lot of self doubt, a lot of anxiety kind of kicks in right before the game, and I've had it in situations, particularly senior year of high school and senior year of college, so kind of when it was later in my career, both areas, where I wasn't nervous. And it was like you're sitting in the locker room like, all right, we should probably start freaking out a little bit.
Yeah, no, because a lot of people, you translate those nerves to like how much you care, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Like, see, like I have not had that experience yet, and it for sure would freak me out. I will say I don't get nervous for casual rounds of golf, which is probably a good thing. Otherwise, life might just be miserable. I will say I never play that good in casual rounds of golf. Like I remember I played with like Will Davis and Carter Duran last summer, and it was just like, geez, Danny, like you are you practicing and stuff? Yeah, I'm just like, I almost need, and even our practices when there's nothing really on the line, it just doesn't get me as fired up. So yeah, I almost need those nerves to dial in that focus for sure.
You said you don't like to eat before, but you're eating during. Is there anything particular that you like to take in that?
Yep. Pro meal bars. I don't know if you've heard those. They're like 400 calories, which they're great and they're super easy. So I'll have one or two of those around, and then a PB&J at the turn, and then some sort of fruit, either apple or banana.
You seem pretty structured on this, your whole routine.
Big time. Yeah, it's funny. Ever since like I pride myself on like controlling the controllables, because I know like I'd like to think that I'm like talented, but I feel like I work really hard and I like do like the boring things really well. And from everyone I've talked to who, plays professionally, like that's the thing, or the things that people overlook. It's like like just doing the little things every morning that like help you stay in your routine and your structure, um, for me has been like I still write out, and I've done this for 3 years now. Every single thing I'm doing every day, at what time, and like maybe
Oh
that's
wow.
like, yeah, like maybe it's psychotic, but like that's just the way my brain works. Where like I have to do it, and I have to have a checklist. Um, to then when I cross that off, it's like making a putt on 18 to shoot 65. It's like the weirdest thing ever. Um, but it's just that organization and, like you said, that structure. I guess keeps me in some sort of a zone. Yeah.
Well, it just seems like you have a lot of discipline, which is, I feel like, as a golfer, which you need to have, especially for the mental side. I mean, and the physical side, but just golfers seem like they need to be organized in literally every single aspect. I mean, you look at like Matt Fitzpatrick, and this dude, like,
Yeah.
he's like a little overboard where like he tracks every single like distance club he's ever shot since he was like 17.
I think since 15, he's written every single shot down, which is mind-boggling.
I mean, that's insane to think about. Are you ever do that? Do you write them down like when you're playing, or do you just take a mental note kind of?
We have to take stats at the end of each of our rounds. So I write them down strictly for the purpose of making my memory easier, but I'll remember them anyways. But no, I am nothing like Matt Fitzpatrick. I think it is cool though how he does it, where he'll be like, "Oh, I had a 160 shot. The wind was into off the right at whatever miles per hour, and this flew 157." So maybe he's like, a week later, he looks in his book, which I think it's like literally just a little notebook of just
Yeah.
crazy numbers, and he'll be like, "Oh my gosh, I'll just hit the same shot I had a week ago." So a decent amount of guys do that to where it's like it recalls their memory in a certain shot. But you're right, he's overboard and another level. But it's cool. It's funny how different guys' brains work. It's like you have that, and then the polar opposite is Dustin Johnson. And it's like, hey, I'm DJ, and I'm just gonna hit a cut everywhere, and we're gonna go for and it both works. And I think that's the cool thing about golf is like you can have crazy different personalities from everyone else. And at the end of the day, like the golf ball doesn't listen to you. There's no other person helping you. So yeah, it's cool, but it's wild the different approaches people have. Yeah.
Is there any players that you like to like kind of emulate your game after, or like do you like to take certain things from the top golfers in the world right now?
Yeah. People might hate this, but I love Patrick Cantlay, and he's getting a lot of bad rap for slow play at the Masters.
He is slow.
He is very slow. Usually not that slow, which I don't know what that was about. But just the way he goes about his business, he's just super methodical and doesn't say much, and people think he's boring. But I just think he's cool. His story is also cool. He lost his caddy, who was also his best friend, and it was just kind of a cool how he faced adversity. I guess locally, Patrick Flavin I look up to a lot. He's a Highland player.
Oh, nice.
He played at Miami. He's on Corn Ferry right now. And he's a little bit more like the not really overthinking type, just get the ball in the hole. So yeah, I wouldn't say there's one person in particular. I'd say those two guys, but I feel like I'm a big student of the game where, if I see something I like or I think is cool from different guys, then I'll look more into it. So I guess it's just a lot of different things from different people.
Do you guys watch like film on like football? You obviously watch we'll watch the game over and over, but like, do you guys watch tape of like your swing and stuff?
Yeah, swing videos are big. I actually, and it was a mental thing at first, but I don't like looking at my swing for some reason because then I start thinking about it. Yeah. So I have not seen myself swing a club in probably, what is it, April 11th? Maybe 2 months. But before I went like a year straight with not knowing where the club was at the top or how I looked. I kind of more just like feel it out, and I know what I'm working on. My coach, I send all my swing videos to my coach at home, and then he tells me what's going on. So it's like Like I'm the messenger, and he'll get back to me. But yeah, especially going through a swing change if you want it in the right spot. Um, Swing videos are very helpful. But in terms of like film, like if you're wanting to like study a course or sort of a playbook, then we'll just use our stats, and then we also get kind of fancy yardage books with a bunch of slopes. So what I do, pre-round is I'll like play around on our course, before the tournament actually starts. Like here's the ideal, visualizing each shot. So I guess that's kind of my film study for a golf course.
How much time do you spend visualizing each shot?
Maybe 5 seconds. It's just
Oh,
seeing
okay.
me hit it, seeing me hit it, and then seeing the ball land. Yeah. So I'll just do that for
Yeah, visualization's been a big thing I think for a lot of golfers specifically talk a lot about visualization. Football players, it's becoming more common, but not as much as it is in golf because I think in football there's so much less you can control as much as you can control in golf.
Yeah, big time. Jason Day, he had this, and I'm not sure if he's still doing it, but he would sit or stand behind the ball with his eyes closed for maybe like 6 seconds, and just seeing the
Hmm.
shot. So he was doing that when he was playing really well. Um, but yeah, people do it a lot. I actually wouldn't say I visualized, like I said, after a bad shot, I'll see a good shot. But during my pre-shot routine, I don't really visualize. It's more just picking a target, and then I'll draw that target back, to 2 feet in front of the ball. Um, and so kind of my range work and practice on the range is, I'm aiming to 2 feet in front of the ball, which essentially should be like, hey, no matter what the wind's doing, no matter if there's OB left or water right, I'm still 2 feet in front of the ball. Um, so that's kind of another trick I use in terms of picking a target where it's not really visualization. It just gets me a little bit more comfortable.
What are you thinking about between like shot to shots? Like you just hit, you just went driver off the tee,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're walking to the next shot where you're going to use an iron. Excuse me. What are you thinking about from like the moment you put the driver back in the bag and you start walking to the next ball before you hit the next shot?
Yeah. Granted, it depends on the shot. I'll kind of see where the pin is and how I'm gonna play this next one. But up until let's say I hit my drive 290 yards for the first maybe 250 yards of that walk, I am thinking of anything except golf. Probably. It's
Wow.
I'm singing a song in my head. I love music, so I'm singing whatever. I'm thinking of what's for dinner. I'm thinking of what my buddy said. If my coach is walking with me, we're talking about sports or school. Um, but like I said, 5 hours is a lot of time to just, and granted, if we're playing the 36 hole day, which we do a lot in college, that's 12 hours on a golf course. Like, granted, no escape. Um, so I'm thinking of a movie I watched, or yeah, literally anything except. And then when I hit 50 yards out, then it's like, okay, let's dial back in, let's get to the shot. But yeah.
That's wild. I never knew that would be a part of the game, and that's on purpose, correct?
Yeah, like, and I'm usually pretty friendly out there, so I'll like talk to playing partners from different schools and being like, yo, like what's your guys' school like, or what's your situation? Um, Granted, you got to feel out the playing partner early to see if he's willing to talk, because some guys are pretty, just in their own world. But yeah, and I think that's kind of the fun part, like I said, there's only 20 minutes to hit golf shots, so it's impossible to be totally focused for 5 hours. I mean, I know
Yeah.
I would drive myself crazy. So, um, yeah, just getting away from it in those moments, I've kind of enjoyed. Yeah.
Is there any trash talk on the course?
Um, when we're playing with our own team, yeah, but
Oh,
between,
really?
yeah, like if I mean, our we have a group of three freshmen who they're studs, but they can be so annoying because they think they're hot shots. So yeah, they'll talk all the trash in the world. But in terms of if like that'd probably be a little bit. I mean, it definitely would be bad sportsmanship if we're playing. We'll be, I think, paired with like Minnesota this week or something. And if you're like talking like that's just I mean that's not really how college golf is. And granted, it might be more fun if that was the case. It might fire people up more. But yeah, if anything, it would be behind their back. So
that's the complete opposite of football. Football, it's just like a shit talking.
Right, the linemen in the trenches, I can't even imagine like what they're saying to each
other. It's everyone, and no one's friendly. I guess because like directly what they do impacts you, and you're also wearing a helmet, so like no one can really see what you're saying, so you're not going to get. Yeah, I mean you can get a penalty, but it's unlikely. Do you play a lot against your own teammates, like in the same tournaments?
Well, in the same tournaments, you're technically all competing against each other.
Yeah, I just think that's crazy.
Yeah, so it can be, but at the end of the day, like you're all like Brett, our freshman, his shot. It's like you. At the end of the day, you want him to hit a good shot because it's like then it's affecting our team, kind of ranking. So yeah, never wishing ill will, but let's say if we're qualifying, like at the start of the year and start of the spring, we'll do qualifying to decide the 5 guys that travel to tournaments. And there it can be a little bit more intense for sure because we're just playing our teammates there.
Where do you guys play around Miami?
It's either Houston or Indian Ridge. We're fortunate enough that we have a lot of alumni in the Columbus area, so we'll make the 2-hour drive if we have time and play some pretty good places up there. So that's really cool. We had a good trip this fall, playing some good courses, and then I think we're doing it next fall too. So, I mean, going to that point, maybe the facilities of Indian and Houston around in Oxford aren't the best compared to some of these crazy facilities that Division I schools have. But I think as we have looked at it, it almost puts a chip on our shoulder to be like, hey, we're going to play this sweet course, and they have a better course, better facilities than us, more money. But then we'll beat them at the end of the week and be like that wasn't that hard. So yeah, that's the fun part for sure.
What's kind of your training during the week? Because you guys probably play on weekends. What are you guys doing during the week to kind of prep, like lifting or just getting in as many shots as you can?
Yep, we lift. Right now it's Tuesday, Thursday at 6:30, and then we'll go to class from like 8 to 1, and then our practice block is 2 to 6.
Okay.
So it's pretty busy, kind of bang, bang, bang. Like today we did a 9-hole game where we're hitting irons only from the yardages of 150 to 225.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's just coach can get creative with it. A lot of the time we'll do a short game drill and then play 9 holes and hit a bucket of balls. But a lot of it is more you have that structure and then it's like, what guy is going to put in the extra 2 hours at night. We have a nice indoor facility in Jaeger, actually. And then, so yeah, who's going to put in that extra hour and a half to 2 hours at night? Or who's going to stay, after 6 o'clock when it's still light out. So, there's a lot of time. It can be busy, but there's a lot of time to work on the game, which is nice.
Yeah, I mean the game in general just takes a ton of time. What is the biggest part of your game you're trying to improve on?
It's more of the self-belief than anything.
Interesting.
I tend to, I'll let you in a little bit here. I tend to not, I don't want to say not commit, but it's like, it's really easy to be in your head of like, listen, I've pulled the last 3 tee shots a little left, right? So on the next one, maybe I'm going to aim a little bit more right, which is like, I'm fall victim to that. I feel like a lot of guys do. But that's the last thing I want to do in terms of controlling the controllables and controlling the process, really. So at the end of the day, still looking just 2 feet in front. On the putting green, too, I use a line. So sometimes it's easy to second guess that line, depending on the slope and how much it's breaking. But just kind of trusting myself and the work that I put in, because I know my good golf is plenty good. In terms of actual technique, probably, I mean, short game can always get better. You were watching these guys at the Masters, and those slopes on TV don't look that much. And granted, I've never been to Augusta, but I guess they're just insane. They're just hitting like these high little spinners and then like low bumping runs with like hybrids. So just finding more shots to get better at, and then obviously hitting the ball further is a big one. As you can, I mean, Brooks and John Rahm hit it just about as far as anyone. So
yeah,
no coincidence.
The self-belief thing's interesting because I've always I struggle with that a lot in college football, and it's hard to pinpoint like where it comes from. Until I didn't realize it until senior year, I had this kind of imposter syndrome aspect of my personality of like I didn't feel like I deserved like the aspects of where I was or like the accolades or the part. And the only thing that I would say like helped me get over that was like kind of outworking my self-doubt a little bit. And like there's he's a business guy. His name's like Alex Harmozy. I don't know if you know who he is. He's kind of like a YouTube business guy, but he has an interesting quote. He said, you don't build confidence by shouting affirmations in the mirror, but by building a stack of undeniable proof that you are who you say you are. And then he says, outwork your self-doubt. So it's one thing, and I think the positive self-belief is important to tell yourself in your own head that you have earned the spot you are, but it also is important to build that stack of like hours, like you said, in the training room, in the hitting golf balls. And for me, it was building this like resume of just like working longer and harder than ever people. And that's how I got over it. I mean, I still deal with it every day, but like, that's how I just continue to work through it.
No, that's a great point. There are a couple quotes that come to mind after that. But what I will say, Patrick Cantlay, he's, like I said, just very orderly like, and he treats, and I'm sure it's like a football game, you treat each round of golf like an exam. And the work that he says the work that I've put in the week before, the 2 weeks before, is just my studying. And if I play bad, I didn't study or work hard enough. So that's kind of how he puts it. There's another quote, I'm going to butcher it, maybe not, but Max Homa, it was in Kobe's locker. I don't know if you've heard it, but Max Homa, who went through like probably one of the biggest droughts ever. I guess he couldn't like find the planet with his driver for a point. Read a quote every day that said, a stone cutter's cutting a stone on the side of a mountain. He cuts it for 100, or he's going at it for 100 blows, and on the 101st blow, it breaks apart. A wise man knows that it wasn't the 101st blow, but the 100 before that. So that's a quote that I read every now and again, and knowing that like, hey, it sucks right now, and there's so much doubt, but I'm in the midst of that 100, where I'm going to come outside on that 101 is super powerful. So yeah, I can relate to that a ton. And then knowing, like you said, once you've had those results, and it's like I've gotten outside of the imposter syndrome, because I've realized, and I think you become more of what you're preaching when you play on bigger stages. At least for me, so I played a tournament. Over the summer that was a pretty good field, and I finished 6th, and played with guys who were like nationally known. And you play with them, and it's like, granted they're great players, but like no different than from what I'm seeing or what I'm doing every day in my practice. So it's like, yeah, maybe that was like the 67th blow to the rock, getting those little bits of confidence and knowing that like, hey, I'm doing the right thing totally, diminishes the self-doubt.
Do you try to read books or listen to podcasts kind of like during the week prior, or just try to focus on, the game?
Yeah. It's kind of, and my coach and I have talked about this. It's not like I'm not necessarily building for like the next week or like the next season. I'm just building for like my career. So I'm looking I've looked at like the last 2 years of like this is spring training for when hopefully one day I turn professional. It's like I'm going to challenge myself to just do the things in this moment. So yeah, I'm gonna listen to podcasts that I find interesting. I love No Laying Up. They're a golf brand with actually a bunch.
Yeah.
Three of them are Miami alums, and they've actually helped our program out a little bit. So their content is awesome. So I'm a huge fan of theirs. But the self-help stuff, probably not as much. My dad loves to send audiobooks, so I'll listen to those sometimes, but nothing in particular, no.
It's interesting because I find that golf is the kind of becoming this understanding of it's less physical and it's just this total mental war between you and you. And I just transitioned from from team sports into an individual kind of endeavor. I'm doing a triathlon, but at that point, I'm just focused on myself. And it's the only sport where I've done individually in my entire life. And it's so weird because no matter the result, it always comes back on me of what's going to happen. And like, if I say I'm going to do this, like I'm the only one, like I can no longer blame, I can no longer point the finger at anyone else. And I feel like golfers deal with that battle. So I've been going down the rabbit hole of the self-help inspirational quote stuff all the time.
Yeah. And whatever you can do, I subscribe to a YouTube channel that just literally has 4.5-minute motivational videos. Like, Rocky clips or Creed clips or whatever. And it's like, yeah, it's tough because like it's like Thursday morning at 6:30 or 5:45. I probably won't want to get out of bed, but just like once you're out of bed, it's fine. So yeah, and that's part of the reason why I think it's fun and it's a challenge. It can suck at some points, but holding yourself accountable to doing kind of what you want to do. Yeah, but good.
You said something interesting earlier about how you are more. Obviously, you build confidence if you're playing well. So, have you broken down the moments where you've been playing well and the mental state you were at during those grooves that you've gotten hot in?
That's a good. Yeah, I keep a running kind of note sheet on Google Drive of like what are the spokes of the wheel that make up Danny Fisher at his best. So every time something comes to me, like I just added something of like when I feel like I'm in control, this is what my walking feels like, like walking the course. So yeah, it's stuff like that for sure. But I also know that like once I feel like if I'm hitting the ball good and like I have this feeling in my hands that, I've got the club head under control and my putter feels good. That just kind of exudes confidence for me right there. It's when I don't feel as in control is when it starts to get off. Like I went down a big rabbit hole my sophomore year. I played well and I had one bad round and was taken out of the lineup. And because of that one bad round, it sent me down a rabbit hole for maybe 6 months of looking at people's swings on Instagram and being like, how can I be more like them? And it's just like all of the like step one of not to do like college golf, right? Or just getting better, in any sport. So it's, goes back to that self-belief of just knowing that like I've got what it takes. So yeah, that's kind of all I got in terms of building my confidence on the course. Yeah.
How did you get over that moment of rabbit hole of getting taken out of the lineup, now being put, getting over that moment?
Yeah. It was like from maybe February to June, and it took one kind of good finish. I wish I had a better answer, but I just needed to find my swing. I think it was Ben Hogan who said you just have to find it in the dirt. So I'm gonna, like Max Homa, just put in all these hours of proving to myself that I can hit it on the range, go to the first hole, and prove to myself that I can do it there. So yeah, it was just kind of a hole that I dug myself out of, and knowing that like, hey, that hole's like gonna come again, and I don't know when it's gonna come again, But my mindfulness coach and I talk a lot about the idea of impermanence, knowing that nothing is permanent, and that for me has helped, the last couple months of just not taking any day for granted on the golf course, and doing, like I said, those boring, annoying things, to my best potential.
Yeah, it's important to find those, like, being very meticulous. It seems like you're very driven and meticulous about just the littlest details of everything. And I think that's what separates a lot of the players that don't have the natural talent of just being like naturally able to hit a golf ball. Like for me, that I was not naturally talented in football. Like I played receiver. There's a lot of more athletic humans in the world than me, but I think where I found my niche, you'd say, is just trying to really do the details right. And I had a coach that said, you'll never be like perfect with the details, but you have to be an absolute technician with the details. And he just said you have to understand that you're not going to overpower anyone. You're not going to outrun anyone. You're never going to be quicker, faster, whatever you want to say. But if you're a technician with fundamentals in the details, you will find a way to play well. And I think that resonates with kind of your ability to play golf now. Is like you're just obsessed with finding the littlest edge you can build on the most talented guy on the team.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't have much to add. I mean, you're preaching to the choir over here. That's perfect.
What's this in the zone training you got going? I've been seeing, stuff on your Instagram and stuff about it.
Yeah. It's nice of you to bring up. It was, it started, I minor, and I wrote for Forest Scout a lot. Were you part of the Forest Scout?
I was, yeah. Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
Shout out Austin Scott.
Yeah, and then now Ray Del Fava. So.
Oh, nice. I didn't know he was running it.
Yeah, so I guess Mr. Scott left before I was even in the program. But that kind of sparked my love for journalism and writing, and I'm minoring in that now. And then, so yeah, it came about just with the NIL stuff. I was wanting.
Oh, cool.
I was wanting a way a little bit to make some money to fund, what could be a professional golf career. And I feel like what better way than to share knowledge to, people who've supported me, or to, the junior golfer out there who's like, I've been asked literally 10,000 times, how do you play college golf? And not that this website will like make you a college golfer, but it gives you kind of like what's going on in my mind. I go through like different rounds on there. Like I'll take you through a round of like, hey, here was a key decision, and like, why did I go for this par 5, or why did I lay up? I do interviews.
So it's like blog posts,
round recaps. I've got interviews kind of like this. I just had one with a D3 coach. I've got a couple professional golfers on there, so like going through their journey. So yeah, it's kind of, and then, tips and drill videos that we do here at school. So it kind of comes to subscribers in a monthly newsletter. And yeah, it's fun for me to do. It's like kind of a passion, like just to put words on a paper. And it also keeps me busy, and it serves as a good guideline. Like I read an article that I wrote back in June, and it almost serves as like a journaling purpose of like, what was I feeling in June when I was playing well,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's been fun. But yeah, thanks for shouting that out.
No, I was looking into it, and I like the journal aspect of it. I was in the same journalism program in high school, but I can't write at all. Like my writing's terrible, but I do like you give a lot of good insights into the mental side, the thought process side, because I think that is kind of a misconception around college athletics in general. Is like people think, specifically, like I would say football, maybe not golf as much, but like a lot of people think college athletes are just like kind of airheads and don't really like think through things. So I think it's cool what you're doing, because you're giving people an insight into like, there's a lot of mental that goes into this, and there's a lot of thinking of, I could hit this club and I could lay up, or I could, let it fly. So I really like that stuff of kind of giving an insight into like your headspace, because it's important, because you have something unique that not a lot of people get a chance to play, 5 hours of golf in a very stressful environment where competition's on the line, and you get a good look into the headspace, which can be a weird space at times.
Oh, it's so weird. Yeah, and it's kind of something that, like, the info on the site is, I guess, information that I wish I knew when I was in high school. So from that aspect, I think it's really helpful. And like you said, yeah, there's like literally like my next, I think, blog post is going to be all about like how can you dominate practice to where tournament play feels easy. And if you told me that in high school, I'd be like, what? Like, I just want to play golf. Like, I don't want to like hit a bunch of 4-footers and do all this stuff. So yeah, it's cool in that aspect, but yes, mentally it's just, gosh, it can be a grind, and knowing, like you said, like, hey, am I laying up or am I going for it? And oh shoot, I have this exam tomorrow night, and so like all that stuff, like you said, and even talking with Dr. Slager, he works with some of the football guys, I think.
A lot of guys on the team, a lot of guys that I was close with met with him. I never met with him. I didn't do a lot of, I mean, I did it all by my own, a lot of like mental stuff, but mine was a lot of just like talking to my brothers and stuff helped me, and older guys on the team.
That's probably even better. But yeah, just knowing that like everyone's going through some sort of a similar situation of like, yeah, it's just hard, and how are you progressing day by day? Yeah, I've just got on my whiteboard right here, like just 1% better. Like that's all you can ever ask for, really, from my perspective. So yeah, how do you accomplish that each day is just the big question.
I like what you said about like you're kind of writing blog posts for like your former self a little bit, like your high school self. And it kind of, I've said this quote a couple of times on this podcast, but I'll say it again. It's like it's from Ryan Holiday. Do you know who Ryan Holiday is?
No.
Oh, he's a stoicism like author. You would like his stuff. It's all like mental headspace, discipline, stuff like that. But his quote is, "You are perfectly positioned to help someone you once were."
Yeah.
So it's kind of like right now, and like kind of been the guiding principle for this podcast, and it sounds like what's going on with your in the zone training is like, if I'm making and I'm having conversations that like myself when I was 18 going into college would enjoy, laugh to, or gain something from, then I'm like doing exactly what I should be doing, is kind of how I like look at it.
No, that is perfect. Yeah, and I think the whole laughing and enjoying is a big part of this, and we haven't even talked about, like, it's supposed to be fun at the end of the day.
Yeah.
If you're not, and I'm sure football didn't feel like fun, maybe
No.
Not all the time, but most of the time. It's like, it's so easy to forget that, like, yeah, at the end of the day, there's not a worry in the world, and you're about to block a punt, or I'm about to hit a golf shot in the middle of the field. Like, it all matters so little to where it's like, yeah, let's just try to have fun. So yeah, that's an awesome message. Yeah. That
was the thing that I had to learn later on in my college career, was like, you're playing football with 100 of your best friends, and you're playing at cool stages. Like, don't throw as much pressure on yourself as you need to, and just enjoy every second. So that's what I learned later on in my career, but I had to go through the struggle of like being so self-deprecating all the time.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I'd be lying to you if I said like having so much fun. Because no, I mean, it's stressful. It's a grind. Like, you want to play your best, and if I'm giggling after I miss a 3-footer, like, no, that's not going to do anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, totally. Like same thing with us. Like, hey, these are like 11 of my best buds.
Yeah.
And yeah, enjoy it while it lasts, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely that like that balance of the two, and it's hard to not let like pressure kind of creep in at times in the biggest of moments, and especially when you're playing well. Like, I feel like pressure for me, like when games were on the line and like things was like plays were needed to be made, I always got nervous also during games. Do you get nervous like during matches?
Oh, big time. Yeah. Gosh, when was the last time I was nervous? I mean, even our last tournament, like it's just, you just kind of get antsy, and and granted, the target should always be 2 feet in front as my rule of thumb, but you come to a tee shot that doesn't really fit your eye, and you're on the green before putting, and it's like, ooh, like this tee shot's gonna be a little dicey on the next one, where your heart rate just kind of gets spiked a little bit. But yeah, get nervous, but then going back to like, hey, none of this is gonna matter in 2 weeks or 2 months or 2 years. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is, but that's kind of also like what you live for. Like, hey, if you can pull it off,
Oh yeah,
you're nervous and under pressure, then boom, you've got it. But yeah, definitely get nervous coming down the stretch, especially in contention. But yeah, that's what makes it fun.
what's the feeling like of like being in contention with like whatever, like you're going into the back nine, you're making the turn, you're in contention. What's the feeling like?
Yeah, and I think I can speak to this more from. I mean, Grant, I went on a tear my senior year of high school where I was winning a decent amount.
Yeah, you were on fire. I remember.
Yeah, it was. And it's just harder. It keeps getting harder to win. I mean, there's just so many good players. But just knowing that like you're beating like 100 guys is just like a sweet feeling. And then once you're there, it's like, yeah, like I remember, and granted, I was in, I wouldn't even say contention because I was winning by a lot this summer at Glen Flora up in Waukegan. But it was cool because you've got like there was a dude that showed up. You've got like 10 people watching you. You don't know these 10 people, and it's like just a rinky-dink little Chicago tournament. You're like, oh yeah, like you're the kid who's winning, and it's like, yeah, that's a cool feeling. But when you look at it, like from my perspective, it's like, no, I'm just trying to put one foot in front of the other, do the same boring stuff. But what I'm feeling is just trying to keep it all cool, and that is almost like more stressful at times. It's like, okay, like what song was I humming 3-4 holes ago when I really wasn't feeling this nervous? Like just trying to get back to my goal at the start of the day, which is to be patient and hang in there and have fun. So yeah, it gets harder the more I get into contention, but that level of focus just keeps creeping up and up and up.
When you make that big putt, let's say it's you make that big putt either to win or it's a huge putt and it goes in, and let's say you make birdie or you get par, is it a feeling of excitement or is it a feeling of relief?
That's perfect because I had a putt today. We played 9 holes, 9 holes, and if you didn't shoot even par, you had to run to the end of the range and back. And I had 15, yeah, not fun. I guess we were walking today, but still, it's like 10 minutes out of your way, and it's just bad. I had a 15-footer on the last to get to even par to not run, and like knew I had to make it, and made it, which was sick.
15 feet? Holy shit!
Yeah, but the cool thing is like in that moment, I was just like, Danny boy, you're gonna trust yourself as much as possible here and live with the result. And for the first, I will say, we only played 9 holes. The first 8 holes, I just wasn't doing that. And it's funny when it's like when you gotta have it. Like, I'm not going to second guess myself because, like, what is there to second guess? Like, you're just cheating yourself. So that's a big thing. And who knows? Maybe this putt will, like, I'll play well next week or at max because I had this 10, 15-footer in practice that I made that arguably meant nothing but meant a lot to me because I don't want to walk the range and back. So, yeah, knowing when you have a putt to make it and then being able to trust myself, the overall feeling is just like heck yeah, like let's go. So it's not really relief. I'd say it's more relief when I get to a place where I'm not feeling that good and it works out. But relief to me almost feels like I'm just wishing it around, and you kind of never want to feel that way. I'd say just more excited and kind of just a gains in confidence.
That's awesome. I mean, that's It's one of those things where I was talking to my buddy Brett Gabry, plays quarterback at Miami, and he was saying like a game-winning drive is similar to golf, where you you need it, and when you got to have it, and you end up getting it. He was saying it's like the best feeling, because I'll never have that moment of making like a huge putt in a tournament or making a game-winning drive, touchdown,
You never
pass.
know.
Like,
Yeah.
you never know when I'm on the Corn Ferry, and
Yeah.
no, but I'm just saying, like, it's fascinating to me, to like that feeling of like that actually just happens. Sometimes it's like I feel like it's got to be like a body a little bit, maybe not on the practice range, but when you're playing.
No, yeah, for sure. And I don't even know if it's like, one shot, but like a round of golf can totally feel, or a stretch of 3 to 9 holes can totally feel out of body when it's like, I just dusted and beat the heck out of this field and felt like I did nothing. Like that feeling is like, oh my gosh, I'm on cloud 9 on top of the world. So yeah, what Gabbert's saying is perfect. It's like, there's nothing more in this moment that I could have done better. And to actually do that, I mean, yeah, it's the most satisfying feeling ever. Yeah.
How pumped up are you going into MAC tournament?
Yeah.
You said it's the end of May?
Yeah, start of May. So this year it's actually down in Alabama, which usually it's around the Midwest, but it will be nice for the warm weather, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's like May 1st, but it should be good. I feel like no one's really running away with the MAC this year. Kent State always has a good program. They get all these good Canadians. But yeah, Kent State, Toledo, and then I think we're kind of right there. So yeah, but then again, can't really ask for much more. Just stay patient and try to have fun. But yeah, it's always an exciting time knowing that you can, like literally 6 good team rounds and you're playing for a national championship. So yeah, it's fun stuff.
Well, Danny, this has been awesome, man. I appreciate you coming on.
No, thank you. Now it flew by. It's insane.
Yeah, it sometimes it flies by. This has been a great conversation. Where can people, follow you, and where can people find the In the Zone training?
Yeah, it's all on my Instagram, DBC Fish, I think is my username. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not super active on all socials, which I kind of like. I find it a little distracting.
Yeah.
But yeah, DBC Fish, you can find it all there. And yeah, look forward to continuing it.
Appreciate you. I'm going to be following along all the rest of the tournaments.
Yeah, me too. Gosh.
Appreciate you, man. I'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Chris.
See ya.